Hi guys, it's Ankush here again. I'm with Anthony. We've realised we're both wearing the same clothes as we did a week ago, which was not planned at all. But this is literally a week later than the last one we recorded. And the reason we're recording this little video is after the last one we recorded, where the time just flew by. Anthony and I had a kind of a subsequent conversation, and it gave us a thought about actually recording it, which is moving on from bidding and tendering and talking about what Anthony really would love to get involved in, and I thought that would be great to share with you guys. Since then, Anthony's had some experience in terms of the project we actually shared with you guys last week, and I thought that'd be great to just give people the next step and show kind of what's happened with that so far. And then we're just going to have a little bit of a talk about taking action and maybe just riffing off that as well. So, welcome back, Anthony.
Hi, Kish. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
I noticed the continuity error. You haven't had a shave, so
I have. It's just grown back. It's that I try not to shave too often. So it's kind of, I'd like to call it designer stubble as opposed to being lazy. So that's my
okay,
story, and I'm sticking to it.
cool.
So I guess maybe we start off with what's happened since last week. So we recorded something very quickly. I think we released it the same day or the next day, and there was a live tender that we spoke about as an example. So I think as a continuation from the last call, it'd be really great just to hear what's happened since then, whether people have got involved, what they've done, and what's been the outcome so far.
Um, right. I shared it with about 160 people. I kind of restricted it just to see, kind of like an experiment to see what would happen. Um, Very simple application. If you could spell your own name, address, your contact details, you actually were about to trade, and you had some references, and the references didn't have to be in the coaching field or directly. This was related to children's services. They weren't looking for somebody directly with that background, but they were looking for somebody with an understanding of how any organization operates, the demand for better results with fewer resources, kind of political stuff, or kind of with a small p, stress, anxiety, worry, absenteeism, all that kind of stuff that goes on in any organization. That was it. And it came down to it. The central bit was a 200-word proposal. Say it was around coaching, what you could do and make a difference around coaching. Now, I shared it with about 160 people or so on a Facebook page or two. I tracked the link to the application, so 46 people downloaded the application form and I guess, had a look at it. Of which 4 people came to me because I said, if you want some help with this, I'm happy to do it. It's free. I'll do it. So we had some conversations, and then they filled in the applications or started to, and we had some coaching around that to improve upon it where they got stuck. And eventually 2 people submitted an application. So we went from 160 down to 46, down to 2 submitting. I did a debrief last Friday, and it might be because I recorded that as well, so it might be worth actually sharing that. It's a little bit long because it did go on a bit, because I can sometimes. But there's some really cool stuff in there, some quite insightful stuff, not just about the kind of the detail of the application, but actually it's like, how do you apply the principles to this particular field? How do you communicate it across? How do you kind of relate to other people's understanding where they're at? How do you talk about something which is a little bit more interesting than mind, consciousness, thought, and all the the, the, the difficulties that people have conveying that? So it's quite a lot of details. I'll probably actually share that.
Is that a YouTube link?
It's a Skype recording,
Yeah.
so if I can work out how to stick it onto YouTube, I can do that, or I can stick it. It's on my Dropbox account already,
Yeah.
so I can just share the public link and people can download it and listen to it
Brilliant.
in bite-sized chunks.
Cool.
But there's some really insightful stuff, and it was with actually the 2 people who got halfway through the application and didn't submit, which is fine because they went through the process. So they said they had a much better understanding. It wasn't as daunting as they thought it would be. And actually, a lot of the experience that they had in their corporate world, the organizations they worked with, um, was directly relevant to this, even though it was a public sector. It was, they could draw upon how they've dealt with multidisciplinary teams, how they've dealt with performance issues, how they've improved quality, how they have improved or worked with senior management or leaders or run management training, that kind of stuff. They had all of that, but they never thought of it because it was in the kind of private sector. They never thought it would actually apply to the public sector. And it's like, forget about the kind of legal structures. It's like they're the same, because we're not actually talking about organizations. We're talking about people. Organizations don't exist. People do. When people run projects, it's not about the project, it's about the people. People make projects happen. Projects don't make things happen. It's the people. If you kind of get back to the people and how they operate, if you understand how they operate, you can get phenomenal results.
And by how they operate, I mean, for me, that's just pointing directly to the principles,
Yeah.
as in how we experience reality, in effect.
Yeah. And what I found funny was because I filled in the application myself. I woke up. The deadline was 9 o'clock UK time on Monday morning, so I woke up about half past 6 UK time. I woke up and I thought it was kind of. I thought, well, why not have a go myself?
Mm.
And you'd think, oh my god, I've got a couple of hours to write a proposal, deadline looming. But it was actually easier to get out of bed than actually mull around in my mind what to do or not to do about it. So I just started writing, and the words started flowing, and I didn't have the time to wander off the subject. I just wrote what came to mind. That was it. But the funny thing is that the stuff I'd suggested to other people, which fitted them, didn't seem to fit me. So we talked upon, I think, qualifications about that last time, and I didn't put mine down. It was kind of weird, you know, organization going through significant, or 17 organizations go through significant change. I have a master's in MBA specialized in innovation, creativity, and change. Never mentioned it because in that moment it didn't seem relevant.
Yeah.
I had a couple of references I put down. And then immediately after I'd submitted the application, and then I actually got in touch with those people. Said, by the way, I've put your names down. I've written some stuff. Is that okay? They said, fine, that's okay. And I from one of my referees that she's emailed me back a copy of what because they got the request, and she emailed back what she wrote, and I was just blown away. It was like the best reference I have ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
I was like staggered.
And was this a business reference, a client?
It was a client, a former client of mine I worked with for about 4 years. We did basically about £4 million worth of projects. The net cost to the organisation of employing me over 4 years to do that was about £24,000, because all the money I got in paid for me to do all the other work as well. And we did probably well over 30 different projects. The correction she said, I put in her reference that we shared some of this work nationally, and she said, actually, that was wrong. We were actually asked to share this on behalf of the UK government around the world, and we actually travelled to Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, sharing what we'd done. So I'd forgotten all about that.
So, just to kind of bring it back to maybe people who haven't had some of that experience. I mean, the other two people that submitted, what was their experience like? Because you said from all the people you had finally two other people submitted.
The two that submitted, they again, hadn't really worked in the public sector, but they managed to draw upon their private sector experience that made sense to them, that fitted in. Um, and one of them put in the application. She said, "I've done this." I said, "Great," and I said, "Now you've got a ready-made application for somebody else." And she said, "I never thought of it like that." Um, and then she messaged me the next day and said, "You won't believe what happened. I was having a conversation with somebody today about the same problem that she just put the proposal in, and then she remembered, oh, I have a ready-made proposal for you. Can I send it through to you?" So having gone through the process, she was going, well, I've already got that solution for that particular type of client, so here it is. So she was already good to go. There wasn't any, well, hang on a minute, yeah, I'll put something together, maybe get back to you in the next few days. It was like, yeah, I've got something for you, here it is. And they all said that it's an area they never thought about. It's much more straightforward than they ever thought was possible. Having done it, they're much better equipped to do it again. But also the interesting bit we mentioned right at the start was, like, where does this go to next? It kind of looks like it's the tender, but the interesting stuff is, where does that get you next? Because it's, like Nikki found, is there are other people with the same problem.
Yeah.
And if you kind of go back to the kind of like strip back the basis, it's, for many people, it's the challenge is actually writing down what it is that they do that can make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think just going through that process, that is a big help. Whether it's to write your own website or your own web page or some promotional stuff, it's like, this is it. So we used to, in the kind of creating clients thing, it's about having conversations, and conversations, we touched upon it last time, conversations are a little bit interactive. You say something, I can respond to that, you can respond to it, and we can build upon something. When it's a little bit more one way, you've got to be really, really good with your communication to say this, to have that kind of impact, because it's not kind of interactive. You can create an interaction a little bit, but it's a bit of a one-way street.
And not to put people off with that, I guess what you're saying is you can only get good at that by doing it.
Yeah. It's like I was teaching a friend to ski last week, and I said, you can't learn to ski when you're not moving. You can't turn your skis when they're stationary. And she went, yeah. I said, keep moving, then you can learn skiing, then you'll get better, because you're in the flow, you've got the laws of physics behind you, you've got real-time information you can respond to, you can improve upon. Because the cool thing is you put in a proposal or whatever, you'll get some feedback.
Yeah.
You actually get the scoring mechanism. It's like doing an exam, and the examiner, before you turn up for the exam, the examiner said, well, actually, here's the scoring criteria. This is what we're looking for. This is what we'll measure you on. And if you get this level, you get 1 point. If you get this level, it's 2 points. If you get 3, and value for money, because we're not looking for the cheapest quotation.
Yeah.
We're looking for the one that's best value, or the one that best meets our needs.
Yeah.
So if they're really good, we'll pay more for it.
Yeah.
If we're going to get more out of it, we'll pay more for it.
Mm.
And by the way, and here's the criteria that we'll check that. So you have all of that in front of you, so you can check progress. So it is a little bit interactive, but you have to kind of work it out a little bit.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about monitoring and evaluating? Because this is something that kind of came up as well, around something that is helpful both for applying for applications in the future, and also to measure in for any work people are doing at the moment, and about keeping your own statistics.
This is your track record. So many people do a piece of work, but never find out what works or what makes a difference. And they finish the project and they go, oh, I wish we'd collected information on this. I wish we'd monitored what happened. It's like you build that in from the start. So if it's a coaching contract and you've got say 20 people to coach, everybody benchmarks themselves at the start on whatever criteria they come up with, and then tracks themselves halfway through and towards the end, and that's it. You can measure it's what they call distance traveled. Where did they start and where did they come up with? It doesn't have to be any more than that. You know, I remember 20 years ago, 16 years ago, the first coaching contract was 25 people I had. And I thought I just need to track their progress. But we'll do a self-evaluation. So in those times, I don't know if it still exists, but they had this wheel of life thing where you could measure your life around various things. Yeah, like relationships, health, wealth, happiness, that kind of stuff. So we got them to benchmark themselves against that. We tracked themselves 3 months into it, and then at the end of 6 months. And just that little bit, we could say there's a 30% improvement in this. There's a 20% improvement in this. Oh, this is actually making a difference. But it was just collecting that small level piece of information that enabled us to go on to the next coaching proposal, which was for 200 clients.
Yeah.
Because we had the evidence. So rather than rely on somebody else's evidence, because, you know, saying the principles, well, there's one or two, there's a lot of anecdotal stuff, there's a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Which is maybe great if you're having a conversation or one-to-one with a potential client. But in most organizations, they're looking for what's called evidence base. So what's the evidence base for this? Can you demonstrate that you have made this kind of difference? And if you can point to your own research rather than somebody else's, yours counts for a lot more weight, because you're talking about what somebody else has done rather than what you've done.
Yeah.
So when I involved in creating coaching in the public sector, probably the reason a lot of people are out now business coaches, we took the business startup rate for women from 1 out of 10 to about 4 or 5 out of 10. So we could see what everybody else was doing. 10 women would start it for a public organization. Can you give me some help starting up my business? Only 1 out of 10 would actually go forward and start up a business. We took those 10 women, and improved it by 400%. Because I tracked that, so I know that's the difference that we made, because everybody else was giving business advice and consultancy, and we, as coaches, were creating something that fitted that person exactly. And the other 10 people, the rest of the people we coached, they decided actually they didn't want to go into business. We actually wanted to go into employment. Great, we coached them for that. Or for some, they want to go into training. We coach them for that. Or for some, actually, I just prefer, I'm quite happy now to stay at home and look after my children. I want to look after that. It's like, brilliant.
Yeah.
So they all got a result in the area that they were looking for, but the key one was actually, can we improve the startup rate for businesses, which is what we did.
Yeah.
And then it rolled out nationally. So,
which is kind of interesting. You talk about kind of going into an area where, in that situation, it was women wanting to start a business, and before the take-up rate was quite low, and that's quite interesting for me, because, you know, one of the places I'll be sharing this is in the Making a Living Sharing the Three Principles group, and we've got, you know, a lot of coaches in there, or a lot of practitioners. Some of them are very experienced, some of them, or I would, seems to me, and I might be wrong, a lot of people in that group wanting to grow their business, wanting to either start or grow that. Why do you think, or do you have any thoughts around why that is so low? That we've got a whole community of people who are grounded or touched by this understanding, who have had their lives changed, want to then share this with other people, but for some reason that isn't happening.
Oh. I'm going to say something, but it's possibly not the answer that people want to hear. The grounding issue. we kind of understand. We kind of have that. We've had that insight that we can recognize that the mind-made illusion of thought. We it's not so much what we see that's important, but how we see it. It's not what we think, but the fact that we think. And it's really easy to recognize that in others. And when we get some feedback, some results, we can see a change in other people. Go, wow, we can see it so much more easily in others, but we miss it in ourselves. The level of grounding is your level of understanding. So we can see it and recognize it in others, but when it comes to our own self, that insecure thinking of, I don't know what to do next, or I'm not worthy of this, I'm not good enough to do that, I'm not as good as so and so. They've got a real command of those particular words or that description. They're much more time served. They've been 30 years around this. Whatever the image, that's all the mind-made illusion. That's the level of your grounding. That's the difference between what you can see in your clients and what you can hear from your clients and really help them, and where you're coming from. You can't see it, and I include myself as well. Frequently, it's like, I miss that. I don't see it. And sometimes it's helpful to have somebody somebody put on my Facebook page today, Anthony, the illusion guide. It's like somebody to have a look at, like, well, hang on, this is what's going on for you. It is actually a mind-made illusion. There's some practical stuff that needs to be done. But once you see your own mind-made illusion of, well, it just disappears. You kind of, because people talk about, I have to overcome this, I have to overcome that. But if the thing you've put in front of you, the thing to overcome is, once you see the mind-made illusion of that, it disappears. It's like understanding a magic trick. It looks like magic, but once you see how the trick is created, the illusion is lost. And that's the point you can go, well, actually, this is just another way of doing something. I've heard about creating clients. I've heard about attracting clients. What about dealing with those ready-made clients? You know, it's a bit like buying a house. You're trying to, it's like being an estate agent trying to persuade somebody that it would be a good idea for them to move house. Or advertising that you're a really great estate agent. We help people find the best house that fits their needs. The house of your dreams. It's like, okay, that's great. Or you can go, well, actually, there are already some people who've decided to move house. They already have an idea what kind of property and location they're looking for. They've already got the budget. They've agreed the mortgage if they need that. They're good to go. Those are the kind of people I'm talking about. They're good to go. And they're ready to go, and sometimes there's a very short time frame. So the one we talked about last week, the application, I think the time frame was about a week, 10 days. It just pops up. You've got a week, 10 days to respond to it, and that's it. And then what I've discovered is, a couple of days ago, another one popped up. This one for executive coaching for 6 people, senior management in London, to handle a £46 million budget cutback. Can you coach these people over the next 3 months? And it lists, stress, worry, performance, so the clarity of decision making, that kind of stuff. Now, the 4 people who came forward and wrote the proposal last week, they've already got a probably 3/4 ready-made proposal to respond to that within the time frame of it's due on Friday. It came out last Friday, it's due this Friday. They've already got all the documentation, they know where they live, they know their name, they know their contact details, they've done all of that, and they've already got the 200-word proposal. They just need to add a little bit more and a pricing issue. And that's it. They're good to go. Whereas the other, was it 46 less 4, 42, they've got a little bit further to travel.
Yeah. It was interesting what you said at the start of this call, where you said, some people took it through, and then actually when they submitted it, it wasn't as bad as they thought. and to me, that really plays into the power of thought and the illusion of thought.
Yeah.
And we see it like in so many other areas, kind of, I want to go to the gym. Oh, I can't be bothered. But when you do go, it's always more enjoyable than you ever thought in your head.
Yeah.
And how Jamie Smart said this recently. He said our feelings are a really bad predictor of the future.
Yeah.
And I really like that, because that just is so true for me. You know, whether it's positively or negatively, sometimes thinking I'm going on holiday, it's going to be great, and actually you go in it and it's not, where you don't enjoy yourself. But more often I see it with thinking things are not going to be enjoyable in the
Yeah.
future, and actually when you do them, then, well, pretty much never that bad. And so when I hear you talking about grounding, it's kind of seeing through that a bit and just saying, it might look like this is scary, it might look like filling in these proposals are, and they might not be right for everyone, you know,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
that's fine. But for a proportion of people, they may look at it and think, I would love to do that, but, and have reason why they can't. And potentially there's that reason could be just another illusion of thought that, well, there's nothing stopping you from doing it, and apart from thought, apart from that insecurity. And
Yeah.
actually, when you do it, it probably won't be that bad. You've got people who are willing to help you out, and you'll learn something in the process, whether you get it or you don't.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mentioned about taking the business startup rating moving from 1 out of 10 to 4 or 5 out of 10, and it was. I remember speaking to those people because we're talking some case like they were held senior positions in organisations. They'd just taken some time out to have a family, and they were looking to get back into work. As they think where they left and where they got back, wanted to get back into, they'd come up with a whole heap of stuff about why they couldn't, or they were really competent and brilliant people. But when and with some great business ideas, but they kind of assumed there was this off the shelf business.
Yeah,
I don't have an understand business because I haven't done it before. You've got to work 9 till 5. You've got to do this, that, and the other. You've got to be this and have this training and qualifications and all so forth. It's like no. You play with what you've got. It's like those are variables. If you want your business to work, in my case, a long time ago, I separated what I do from where I'm at. So I did a lot of work over Skype. Occasionally, people come and stay with me in France if they want to do that, which is great. I either travel to them, I spend short, long periods of time with them. That's great for me. It's kind of those are just the parameters.
mm.
And actually, with a proposal, it kind of looks like you think you have to be there all the time, but actually you can create it such that you don't have to be all there all the time, because actually that could be a benefit.
Yeah,
If somebody's thinking, oh my god, I've coaching, I've got to travel there and I've got to meet this person for an interview, you've got to have it fixed in the diary. That might not suit somebody who's really busy because they're having a lot of stuff going on. They're a senior executive in I don't know, a local government, or inside children's services in this case, you're a senior manager. Things change.
yeah,
And if you go, actually, it's a Skype call, they go, great, let's just pencil it in for here. Or if you want it at 6 o'clock, that's great for me. Or if you
yeah,
want it at 8 o'clock in the evening when there's nothing else going on, you
mm.
don't have the demands for
Yeah,
the work, we can have it then. Oh, that's great. And by then, you've actually put your own kids to bed,
yeah,
so you're clear to do some work. So how it looks isn't how it is. You can actually create it.
yeah.
It's like the future doesn't exist, but you can create what turns up.
Yeah, it's great. You know, I had a few people contact me in the last week who had watched the video that we recorded and said, you know, that they really enjoyed it, and they hadn't even considered about applying for any of these contracts. It wasn't even on their radar. And so I think we've raised the awareness for some people around, this is possible,
Yeah,
that it's possible that these kind of clients exist. And again, I'll say they won't be for everyone. They won't fit everyone's needs. And like we said on the call last week, not every single tender is going to be suitable, but there will be things out there. And I'm keeping an eye out for stuff in the West Midlands, for example, and seeing if there's something that I might go for in the future. However, for people, and this again is something we spoke about at the end of the call, for some people who want a bit more hand holding, I know there's a lot of stuff that you're giving out for free and there's a lot of help that you're giving to people. But, is this something that you do to help people bid for public sector contracts? Is this something that you work with people a bit more formally on that?
Yeah, I, I either do it on a one-to-one base, but when we spoke last week, and I've had a few people come to me as well, and I thought if I could put something together,
Mm.
that might be helpful. And I thought, okay, because you mentioned something like Michael Neal's 90 days to create the impossible and
Yeah.
30-day programs. So I thought, actually, 90 days seems a long time. So I thought, well, 47 days. The number just came to my head. So 47 days. So it's just over 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, we can actually put a proposal together and submit it to a contract that turns up. So it take you through the entire process. But I love to work in groups because we can collaborate, we can help each other. So I created a program where we do one-to-one every week over the 47 days. We have some group sessions. We put a proposal together for you, go through the entire process. I'll edit stuff. You write it, I'll edit it. I'll improve your presentation skills, teach you some of the tricks that you can get around the word count. Like stick a diagram in. It's not part of the diagram. It's not part of the word count. Or put a web link. You want more information? It's here. It's like, oh, okay, they can find out more if they're interested in. So there's little things like that. So one-to-one, we'll do a weekly group coaching session. But I'd love to collaborate with people because I'm coming up with there's a couple of proposals. It'd be great if we could collaborate on. I think a small group of 7 or 10 people to take through for 47 days, we could come up with something which is truly phenomenal that we could all deliver.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I asked you a question after we stopped recording last week, and I said, what would be something you ideally want to work in? Because my guess was, because you've done this so much and you're looking to help other people, and that's fine. But what really kind of gets you going? What would you love to be involved in? And you told me last week, I'd love for you to share that again. You were saying something about a big messy project.
I love doing stuff that has never been done before or get exceptional results. Most people are in the mediocrity results. We're trying to improve by a couple of percent, squeezing the juice out of something. My interest, like I said, with the coaching women setting up in business, to go from 1 out of 10 to 4, 5 out of 10. That's the 400% improvement seems to be consistent with the areas I work in, but it's not a radical change that's required. It's just often small changes or how you see it. We can all, the stuff we teach is this is subtractive. As the noise falls away, your ability to be creative, to see solutions comes to the fore. It's not having more to do, it's actually less to do.
Yeah.
It's the resourcefulness doesn't come from having extra resources. It actually comes from within you. Your ability to see stuff that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
That's the area that I'm really interested in. The kind of tendering process is it's a means to an end. It's just the resources to enable to do something, and that's the first step, which leads on to the next step, which leads on to the next step. I'm the guy who's either somebody's come to me with a problem and say, can you come and help us solve this? And I go, yeah, we could do some resources on this. I know somebody who has a problem in this area. They would like to pay for it. Let's go and get the resources. Once we've got the resources, we come back to the project and go, we'll do the operations. We're going to roll this out now. But I always start beyond the end in mind, not the end of the project. It's like, where does this take us beyond the end of the project? Where is this going to lead us to?
Yeah.
Let's build that in from the start. So we've already built in where we're going to. So when we turn up at that point, we can see where that is.
Yeah.
That's where the monitoring and evaluation comes in. It's, well, who do we need to get on board with this? That's where the collaboration comes in, where the partnership is. What kind of connections do we need to make over time with this?
Yeah.
Okay, so that starts to happen. And if it's a business, okay, how do we sustain this? How do we share this? How do we replicate this? How do we expand upon this? How do we, if there's only 3 of us doing this thing at the moment and we want to go national with it, what do we do to create that now?
Yeah.
That's already built in.
Mm.
And it could be, we need systems, we need processes, or we need training manuals, or whatever it is. That's like, but the minimum necessary to do that. So when you turn up at the other end, you go, well, we've already got everything in place to go to the next level. It's that sustainability thing. It's a kind of good idea, rather than most people turn up at the other end and go, right, the money's run out of that. What do we do next? It's like, well, no. You should have done this like a year ago or 2 years ago, so you don't turn up at this place. That's what most people do. It's like, I wish we'd gathered some being able to monitor our results, because then we could demonstrate to others, we never did that, did we? Yet you build that in from the start. Sustainability. Yeah, we just need some resources to do the next stage. No, you should have built that in from the start when you started 12, 18 months ago. It's like, what do we need to do next? How do we kind of get ahead of steam in this? So if it was a business, you kind of just expand upon it. You can replicate it. You can sustain it.
Yeah. So you're going to bring those expertise, I can see, would be very useful for people who are new, who don't know that. You can kind of help them through that learning curve of what they need to keep in mind to not have to make those mistakes.
Oh, and boy, I have made those. But I don't want other people to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's, I mentioned the reference my client from a few years ago gave me, and she pointed out, actually we went global with this. We were taking our results worldwide, and I'd forgotten all about that. Because it was picked up by the UK government and said, this is phenomenal stuff. We would like to share this around the world. Okay, can you go off and do that? You never know where it goes to.
Yeah. Well, go on.
I was just going to say, and in her case, she got an MBE for it. So.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed this. My whole purpose of this is, I'm just really, really passionate about the principles. I'm really, really passionate about sharing this understanding, and I would love for whoever this is right for, because it won't be right for everyone, but for some people this is going to float their boat, and I would love for people to be part of this 47-day project with you, or reach out to you and start to see those success stories, because I know whenever they do pop up online, there's a whole community of people that are cheering for that. And I think this is such a fantastic community that we all want to help. We all want to change the world. We all want to do our little part, and it would be great if this really helps people to do that.
Yeah. No, I share that. So if anybody wants, just get in touch. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Is there anything else that we've missed out, or?
No, nothing comes to mind.
Fantastic. Well, if you send me the link of your debrief from last week, we will share that with this video, and by all means reach out to Anthony on Facebook. As usual, you can find me on ankushjain.co.uk, but I've probably got nothing to say about this particular topic apart from this interview that I've done with Anthony. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this.
Cool. Thanks, Kush.
Cheers, Anthony.